TNA Wrestling has just made a pretty big free agent signing. I'm going to tell you in this video who it is, why it's important, why you should care, and why this could be the start of a new era for TNA. Before I do, though, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Okay, so TNA announced today that Alex Hammerstone has signed with the company. Alex Hammerstone, former MLW World Champion, someone who had appeared for the company. He appeared at Hard to Kill in a matchup with Josh Alexander, and it was a really, really good match, honestly. And this is a guy who people have been talking about. This is someone who has arguably everything you need in the eyes of most wrestling fans to be a big-time star in professional wrestling. Many people looked at his physique, his stature, like he's 6'3", big dude. People thought that, this is someone who could go to WWE, potentially start off in NXT, and work his way up to the main roster and be a very talented guy. Of course, he held the MLW World Championship for over 600 days, an insane title reign. And it was during a turning of the tide for MLW as, they were kind of well known, but recently they have been known to be producing a lot more stars, producing a lot of talent, and highlighting talent in a way that, not a lot of, indie, small time, secondary wrestling companies could. But they've been doing a lot better job of it. The WWE lawsuit, honestly, has helped, that is going to help them, I think, with the settlement money that they're hopefully going to get, potentially build on that and do more with that. But for TNA, this right here is a big deal. And I'm not just saying that because, TNA is a smaller company, but I mean it because you're not just getting a guy who was a former champion in MLW, like, physical attributes that I've talked about. You're getting someone that had interest. Like, there was interest in Alex Hammerstone in other wrestling companies. Like, people wanted to sign this guy. And the fact that TNA was able to do that, and for whatever reason, money may have been part of it, but also hard for me to believe that, he wasn't getting a comparable contract elsewhere. The other part, of course, is probably the fact that TNA is a place where he can probably be highlighted better. Like, I could see Alex Hammerstone 6 months from now becoming the next TNA Wrestling World Champion. That's how good he is. That's how believable of a character and a wrestler that he is. And if his matchup with Josh Alexander is any indication, I think that he can do wonders for the company as far as bringing on eyeballs and being presented as a big star. Now, of course, does that mean that, TNA is going to be in for like a golden era where they're challenging AEW as a second company? No, of course not. However, what they can do is build on what they already have on their roster. You have Jonathan Gresham signed. You have Josh Alexander signed. You have Alex Hammerstone now. Moose is your world champion. You have been bringing in people like Dolph Ziggler. You have Jordan Grace, a big building block for them, someone who appeared in the Royal Rumble. For TNA right now, especially given all the turmoil, which I will get into about the company in just a second, given all the turmoil that's gone, right now is the time for TNA to get back to what they're good at, and that is professional wrestling. They are one of, I think this era of TNA too is one of the most underrated eras of just really good week-to-week professional wrestling. In the ring, it's hard to beat TNA. That being said, it's the elephant in the room is the fact that they let Scott D'Amore go, and he was a massive reason for TNA to, not only come back and rebrand as TNA, but the resurgence of Impact Wrestling into relevancy. Because for a while, Impact Wrestling was kind of an afterthought as far as wrestling companies go, especially back in 2019, 2020, when AEW had come into the fold. Nobody was talking about TNA. Nobody was hardly watching TNA. It wasn't a hot brand. People just were not interested in it. But he helped make that company by bringing in Kenny Omega to TV, by bringing in people from New Japan, reestablishing that relationship between TNA and New Japan, a relationship that had been fractured over time. Because in the Dixie Carter era of TNA, New Japan talent would come in and be made to look absolutely ridiculous. But in this era of TNA, under the Scott D'Amore era, that wasn't the case, and they were able to do a lot to rehab the image of TNA, rehab the image of Impact Wrestling, rehab their image with the fans and the goodwill with the fans. And they had so much of it going into TNA Hard to Kill earlier this year. And if you watch that show and listen to the way people talk about it, my goodness, like it's night and day from where they were just a few years ago. But, obviously with Scott D'Amore now gone because of backstage politics or whatever it was that led to his departure, there are varying reports about all that. Right now is a time, I think, for whoever is going to end up being in charge of TNA to just get back to what they're good at. Restore that feeling. Bring in Alex Hammerstone. Do good week-to-week wrestling. Bring in people for one-time shows. Bring in a Dolph Ziggler for like a one-time appearance. Try to make a deal with AEW where you get maybe like they've already done this, but an Ethan Page or, other people who may not be used week to week on AEW television, but can come in. Scorpio Sky is another name that comes to mind when I think about guys like this. Like, TNA is in a position where, they're kind of like, they're not like too big to fail, but like too small to break through. But they're like really like almost like they're touching the top of that or touching that like ceiling right there, that glass ceiling into that territory. But I really do believe that if they're able to get past the Scott D'Amore stuff, which I don't know the effect it's had on talent. I'm sure there are a lot of talent that were reportedly very upset with the Scott D'Amore firing. But if they're able to get past this, and if you tell a great story with a guy like Alex Hammerstone with a world title, a lot can happen to rehab that image even more. And if there's anything that TNA needs right now, it's an image change. Or at least a bit of an image change coming out of the Scott D'Amore news. Anyway, let me know what you guys think, though, about all of this news. Are you someone who watches TNA wrestling? Let me know what you're loving on the show, what you're hating. If you're not watching TNA, let me know why you're not watching in the comment section below. Also, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until next time, be happy, be healthy, and as always, keep it real.